What are the best loadouts against bugs and bots after the patch? How good is the spear now? Which primaries are actually worth it? I set out to explore these questions, and let me tell you folks, it's been an absolute blast playing Helldivers 2 again, where the state of play now offers us different options to create different interesting setups. And with that in mind, I wanted to share my thoughts on what some of the best loadouts are now shaping up to be. As always, this is just my opinion and boils down to my own in-game experience, and you may agree or disagree, but either way, let's keep the comments constructive down there in the section below. I'll split the video into two parts, one for bugs and one for bots, covering a few eventualities in both sections. So with that being said, let's get into it. What are some of the best loadouts against terminids? Let's get the ball rolling with what are, in my opinion, some of the must picks for our squishy, swarmy friends. Since the patch has tweaked the armored enemy balance and in a nutshell has created an environment with much more horde and a lot more charges of both the behemoth and regular variety, we have found ourselves in a really fun scenario that creates a number of viable loadouts. As I'm sure you do, I separate my builds into two different templates, backpack and non-backpack setups, and I will use these terms to reference different build choices accordingly. Both have slight variations that you can utilize depending on what you or your other squad mates are wanting to do. For backpack loadouts, and due to the vast number of charges on the map, I personally prefer to use either the Quasar or the flamethrower as the primary way to deal with these. The best option is obviously the flamethrower at the moment, with its insane TTK, both against regular and behemoth charges, and the way it can absolutely disintegrate horde mobs with ease. Its only shortcoming is that it isn't the most helpful when Bile Titans are on the field, but if you're in a well-rounded squad, that shouldn't matter too much anyway. The Quasar continues to be a solid choice despite the increased cooldown from a while back. I take this instead of the Eat at the moment purely because I think Terminid missions are now just so chaotic and bonkers that it's actually more valuable to have the Quasar on your person ready to go. There have been far too many times I've thrown the Eat into the seemingly safe situations only to get schwacked, or for that to get schwacked away and not be able to get to it, and then I find myself without a heavy weapon. I value the predictable consistency the Quasar offers us here. One-shot headshotting chargers, two-shot headshotting behemoths, and two-shot headshotting Biles is a worthy choice. And if you're effectively weaving your other cooldowns and efficient movement choices in with the Quasar, it's a splendid choice. I'm going to make an honorable mention here. The railgun has made its way into my loadout rotation for the first time in a long time, and I've been really impressed with how useful this has shaped up to be in the new patch. Charging up just beyond safe mode allows us to strip charger legs with 2 shots and behemoths in 3. Bile Titans, in my experience, have been behaving a little bit inconsistently with regard to how many headshots they can take, and I've seen 4 to 6 kill a Bile, but you may be better off combining this with other stratagems, which we will be going over in a moment. I do believe this is a known issue in terms of how much damage the charger heads are taking from shots as well, so I think this will get ironed out in due course. For the backpack loadout, you're golden with either the supply pack or the jetpack as your choice. When I play Quasar, I personally enjoy zipping around with the jetpack, creating space and timing my charge ups to coincide roughly with my landing to negate the dead air by using it more efficiently. The supply pack, on the other hand, really complements the flamethrower and the railgun for obvious reasons. That ammo is just absolutely invaluable. Not having to worry about it allows you to be very trigger happy here, and that is much needed when playing these weapons. You can also resupply your teammates, especially if they're using the newly upgraded spear or perhaps the recoilless rifle. Of your remaining 2 options when you're using a backpack loadout for terminids, I consider these flex picks, and it really boils down to what you want to do and how your squad mates are set up. These flex picks are the Eagle Strafe, the Eagle Airstrike, the Eagle 500 kg, Orbital Airburst, Orbital Gatling, Orbital Precision, and Orbital Rail Cannon. Now, I know this is a lot, and it feels really weird listing off that many stratagems, because for a long while it's felt a lot more restricted, but I really did struggle to lock these down, highlighting which ones are hard picks, and I think this just shows how much this new patch has shaken up the Terminid game and opened up loadout choices since the patch. The Strafe and the Gatling have found themselves on the receiving end of buffs in this patch, with the Strafe gaining a charge and being able to damage heavily armored targets. targets. This makes an excellent opener or finisher for biles and chargers, softening them up for more heavy hitting things such as the railgun, quasar, recoilless, or spear. Try to combine these together and you can get some absolutely epic results. Perhaps one of the most standout features of the new Strafe Run rework is just how effective it is against bug breaches, particularly bug breaches that are spewing out, no pun intended, bile spewers and nursery spewers. You can get bile spewers to chain up like a train and drop one of these down and you will absolutely delete handfuls of them in one go. I cannot stress enough, folks. If you've got bile spewers against you, use this stratagem. It's absolutely S tier against this mob type. It turns a nuisance into an absolute novelty. The Gatling is here for the same reason, and the added bonus is there that it has increased fire rate and a 70-second cooldown with more rounds per salvo being fired. Both of these can destroy terminid structures such as spore spewers and shrieker nests, further compounding why you may want to take at least one of these along with you. The orbital airburst is your go-to for niching into breach clear duties and needs no introduction. It wipes the floor with breaches, and if you time these perfectly, so that's usually when the second breach telegraph appears, you can rack up huge kill counts. The 500 kg or airstrike also provide you with the ability to do work to large groups of horde and also armored targets, making this a very efficient and effective stratagem choice. I've actually found myself becoming more fond of the airstrike against terminids for this very reason. Precision strike. Now this one is absolutely glorious to use. Kite charges together, stun grenade them, call this in and destroy multiple charges at a time with some well-placed hits. It can also do excellent work on bile titans for the reasons outlined above, and given its incredibly low cooldown, it just feels fantastic to throw in as much as possible. The orbital rail, this needs no explanation. I'm sure you're all very aware of it now. It can one-shot or finish off heavily armored terminid units and can usually get you out of a pinch if you need to. Just make sure that it doesn't target the brood commander instead. Really annoying when that happens. Its lengthy cooldown means it's an absolute disaster when it misses, but I think that its payoff is worth more than worrying about this. If you're willing to forgo the backpack and open up that extra stratagem slot, I would fully recommend the spear. This is actually a hard pick of mine at the moment, and while the recoilless rifle is a solid choice, I just can't put the spear down due to its now fully consistent lock-on shrieker nests, spore spewers, the ability to one-shot bile titans if you hit them in the face, coupled with making short work of chargers too. It's just so much fun to play and in a really great spot now. My only bit of advice would be encourage a teammate to bring a supply pack. You do burn through ammo incredibly quickly now that the lock-on is so consistent. You're actually spoilt for choice with targets, folks. Quick little tip as well. Some of you may not know this. You can actually begin the lock-on sequence when you're reloading the spear by simply right-clicking through the process as you normally would to aim. And by the time you've reloaded, you've already got that green lock-on symbol, meaning you can get the shot off quickly. My go-to loadout with the spear is the precision strike, airburst, and airstrike, meaning you can do a lot of heavy lifting against heavily armored targets, terminid buildings, and still contribute to horde clear duties effectively, really regularly, especially if you think about your primary, which we're going to be looking at in a moment, folks. For armor, I'm incredibly biased. I always use light medic armor, and this has been further compounded by the new infusion booster, turning us into catnip divers. Sound off in the comments below with any other opinions here, but I just value speed and being able to heal through damage over anything else. It also absolutely rocks with the jetpack. For your primary anti-bug weapon, I recommend picking between Shock Horror, the Breaker Incendiary, the Adjudicator, or a favorite of mine, the Blitzer. The Breaker Incendiary is absolutely ridiculous as it currently stands and is so effective at mobbing, as I'm sure you're all already aware. It's incredibly fun to play and really brings the pain. The Adjudicator, I'm saying this with a smile on my face, it's been newly buffed and it's an absolute monster against terminids, dealing with most terminid chaff with ease. It's particularly impressive against brood commanders with its medium armor pen, and hunters, they just crumble with this thing. I would recommend that you run the the adjudicator when you're playing a build with a supply pack, because although its mag capacity has been increased, it still feels quite uneconomic in the ammo department. Running it with a supply pack alleviates this somewhat, and it's a great pairing actually with the railgun too, because it does serious work on those stripped charger legs. I would also say just be careful when you're aiming with this. If you're close, it's absolutely fine to just let rip, but if you're far away, short bursts are the most effective because it does kick like a mule a little bit. And if you are wanting to alleviate concern around ammo and still pack a punch and CC enemies, I would fully recommend my old favorite, the blitzer shotgun. Returning viewers will know all too well how much I rate this weapon and its infinite CC ability, and I feel like it's been even more exaggerated now that we're dealing with a lot of horde. It pairs wonderfully well with the Quasar for a no ammo build that allows us to deal with chaff and heavies in equal measure. Try this with the jetpack and the Quasar, and use the infusion booster as well, and see what you think, folks, and let me know in the comments below. Speaking of boosts, what would give me a massive boost today is if you could drop the video a like, and of course subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out and it feeds that algorithm. Thank you. Moving on to automaton missions, and there is much less to say here, so I'll get straight into non-backpack loadouts. The spear is now a superb choice as it can deal with all bot buildings and heavy units with ease. It can shut down cannon turrets, fabricators, even bunkers, and it cannot be understated just how much of an impact the consistent lock-on has had on the way this works in both bug and bot missions. But I would say it shines even more against bots. It can one or two shot hulks depending on where you hit them from. It can two-shot tanks. They've altered the way the front panel works, so it's even more effective now. And with the addition of gunship patrols, the spear comes in very useful to thin the ranks of the air supremacy the automatons now really have over us. Of course, it will come as no surprise that the auto cannon also remains an excellent choice against bots. It needs no introduction. It two-shots hulks in the eyes. You can spam down devastator groups, trash gunship engines, and it does work against automaton fortifications and buildings. Speaking of auto cannons, and rather than repeat what you most likely already know, this leads us on nicely to the recent changes to sentries, giving them a higher destruction value so most explosions do not instantly destroy them. Couple this with the blast absorption ship module, which makes sentries take 50% less damage. This finally makes sentries an even more viable option to use. Now, let me tell you folks, I've been having some incredible success taking rocket sentry and autocannon sentry into automaton missions with me. You can either throw them down at the same time to deal with a large bot drop or patrol presences, or rotate between dropping one in each encounter to improve the uptime of the heavy support they provide. Because you now have peace of mind that they won't just disappear if a bot simply looks at them, their destructive power has been amplified massively. Combine this with stacked orbital Gatling barrages, airstrikes, and your own personalized autocannon and a Scorcher, and you are an absolute wrecking ball. And what I would say is it's probably in my top 2 loadouts to face automatons with. If it's a backpack loadout you're looking for, it's got to be the AMR with its ability to wipe the floor with devastators, the infamous 2-tap of the Eye of the Hulk, and it can also deal with gunships, but not very consistently, which is why I now find myself recommending the laser cannon. This thing melts gunships, and if you're good at tracking their engines, I would fully recommend combining this with the sickle for that infinite ammo goodness. It also deals with striders, trash mobs, and devastators with a good time to kill, so it's really nice there. Both the AMR and laser cannon are for me the GOAT choices at the moment, and as long as you're picking either the supply pack, jetpack, or of course shield generator respectively based on what loadout choices you are, you can't really go wrong here folks. Your primary anti-automaton weapon is going to be your tenderizer, more on that one in a moment, the sickle, or the Scorcher. The sickle pairs brilliantly with the laser cannon for infinite ammo vibes and goes nicely as a switch against trash when you're using the AMR. And the Scorcher, it needs no introduction or explanation folks, it just does brilliant work against bots consistently, and as long as you're using a supply pack, I would say that this is a really nice choice to keep yourself fueled when you're getting in those engagements. And the tenderizer is a similar story. It's been buffed and it feels really snappy and nice against bots. I was quite surprised actually at how well it's worked out. I don't know if this is just me looking at it through rose-tinted glasses. I just really enjoy using ARs in games anyway, so maybe it's that, but I'd be really interested to know, have you found the tenderizer useful against bots? Try it out and sound off in the comments below. In terms of stratagem choices, I'm going to be brief here because I've discussed everything with the bugs, but I will say, in my opinion, the stun grenade, coupled with either an Eagle airstrike, orbital airburst, or orbital Gatling, is an incredibly strong choice against bots alongside your usual choices that you would like to take. I don't think things have changed too much in that regard here. If you're interested in taking a deeper look into how the blitzer shotgun works against terminids, check out this next video. It's got you covered. Take care of yourselves, keep having fun, and I'll see you in the next one.